Hey everyone, and welcome. Let me just welcome in our Instagram viewers as well. You guys get a different camera angle today because I'm trying to show you something a little bit larger. So let's see how this goes. And let me make sure that I'm viewing the comments well. Nita, you're such a faithful watcher, and Cindy, awesome. Okay, waiting for a couple more people to join. Today's project is definitely an in the studio type, something that I'm working on, and I'm bringing you my thoughts about it. And it's some table runners that I did end to end, and some ideas for ways that you can save a little bit of fabric, which is money, and a little bit of time in your loading process. So let's see if a few more are tuning in. And on Instagram as well. Yes, we're seeing lots more people. Another Susan, Patricia, Samantha, Karen, Teresa, Nancy. Good, good, good. So happy to see you all. Okay, as a brief intro, lost my comments. Hang on a sec. There we go. As a brief intro, I'm Susan Smith. You're in my studio, Stitched by Susan, and I'm coming to you live every day in the entire month of April. We're about halfway through the month. I think today's the 16th, if I'm remembering correctly. It's a bit of a blur. Just with topics that relate to machine quilting. Often at the long arm, that's where I work the most, but sometimes relating to the sit-down machine as well. And this is all leading up to the opening of enrollment later this month to my freehand quilting masterclass. A brand new edition is rolling out this time. I've always done the demos at the long arm, so I've re-recorded those. We just have better cameras and lighting equipment, and I hope it looks a little sharper and crisper and has good angles this time. And in addition, I've recorded the designs being quilted out at a sit-down machine. That's a question I've gotten asked so many times since I first launched this masterclass. How does this translate? How does this work at a sit-down machine? So I'm showing you the same quilting designs at my domestic sewing machine, and, you know, along with some changes maybe to size or scale or different ways that different ways that I handled it. So trying to help those of you who do in fact quilt at a sit-down type machine, whether it's a long arm or just your domestic machine as mine is. So lots more people tuning in. Good, good, good. Oh, and Susan Lee corrected me. It's the 17th. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I am a little bit lost. Okay, today's project. I think for a title I put how to save a few ways to save time and money, or dollars and time. Can't remember how I worded it. But this is the project at hand, and it may look like a bit of a jumble. I hope this is visible to you on camera. This is 3 table runners, very different styles as you can see. Sunflower, some kind of pink and blue paisley, and then a very Bonnie and Camille reminiscent fabrics, although I don't think it is their fabric line at the bottom. What are ways that you can save with this? Well, the first problem that I found was these runners, they're all about the same size because they're the same pattern. They're about 14 inches by 28 or 30. That's probably more than 30. Anyway, 14 inches wide. And the lady whose they are, her backing was not 4 inches bigger on all sides. And I get that. When you've got just a 14-inch runner, to add another 8 inches of fabric is costly. I get that. So in fact, she only had about 2 inches, and in some cases a bit skimpy too, on each side. So I thought through, well, how can I do this and make it easier on myself? Because loading up each runner with that little bit is difficult. It's tricky to load, and especially tricky because I use the red snapper system. They're kind of little rails that go at the top and bottom, and the throat of my machine bumps into those when I'm that close to them, making quilting smoothly difficult. So here was my answer. I literally took all 3 backings to my sewing machine and basted them to each other, creating one big piece of backing. So save dollars because she didn't have to use all that extra fabric, which is significant when you talk times 3 runners, and also save time because I only had to load 1 time for all these runners. So for those of you who perhaps quilt for clients, this is a thought that you can, you know, a lot of us will have, and I do too, have a minimum charge. And part of the reason behind that minimum charge is a runner takes as much time to load as a quilt does, because you still have the top and the bottom to load, right? So the loading time is not smaller just because it's a teeny tiny few square inches of quilting. But if you can load it this way, looking at comments out of the side of my eye, if you can load it this way, you've now, instead of 3 loading projects, you just have 1. And so you have saved a bunch of time, and you can pass that on to your client then in terms of not needing maybe to charge your full minimum charge for each one. So just a thought. And this is not really about billing, so I won't go into that in depth, but Nita, I'm excited. Carol Ann, good morning, first time live. Awesome. Nell, Nita, thank you for doing these. Really appreciate you. You know, this brings up a topic, and I debated whether or not to say anything today, but I think I'm going to. Nita, you're one of the ones who's a regular watcher, and I kind of know you guys' opinions because you express your appreciation so often. But for those who might be viewing who are newer to my channel or to my following, depending on where you're watching, I am curious to know if you really do find these little episodes helpful they're not lessons, they're not classes, they're just some daily thing that I'm working on, and decisions need to be made, choices, whatever. I feel like in my head, it's valuable because I would have welcomed that back in the day when I was learning to quilt. I mean, YouTube was an infant then, for one thing, so there were few videos, but even now, so many videos are scripted, and some of these little daily decisions don't make the cut, right? They don't seem important enough to include in a lesson or a polished, trimmed video. So I bring them to you. They're very off the cuff, and those of you who have watched every day know I've had my issues with sound and with camera angles and all the things. But my point is, I'm just trying to bring you an honest look into my studio, and there isn't always time to polish it up and buff it before I bring it to you because I've got to get on to the next quilt. So I just dive in and talk to you about it and then move on. So I would love to know, especially from those of you who are perhaps newer viewers, is this valuable to you? Shall I keep producing this content? And this kind of comes up because yesterday I actually received a number of comments and emails that were quite critical. And so I thought, it kind of gave me pause. Like, is this really valuable? Do I need to just put that away and say they're the outliers? They can just move on. But if there's enough of you that find this valuable, I'll just keep right on doing it. Rightly so. I love your name on YouTube. Yes. Shyla, hello from Indiana. Melody, happy Wednesday. Pilar, yes, extremely helpful. I appreciate that. Love these videos. Just got my long arm, so glad I found you, full of knowledge. Well, yeah, I don't call myself an expert. I don't, because I'm still learning too. And honestly, in these conversations that we have between you and me, I often learn tips here too. Debbie, these lessons are super helpful. Cindy, loving these episodes every day. You guys are encouraging me. I appreciate it. Because sometimes you do wonder. I can't remember if it was yesterday. I think it was yesterday. The camera kept cutting out for whatever reason. I don't know if it was a faulty cable that it just kept. And so then people just commented, can't see you, can't see you. This is useless when I can't even see you. Get your camera. It's just life. That's the way lives go. Anyway, back to today's project, and I'll stop whining. Just in case you're just tuning in now, I'm going to show it again from the front and the back. This was 3 table runners, all similar in size, although that doesn't massively matter, but it did make it easier to sew the backings together. So I had these 3 table runners, 14 inches wide this way, and of course I'm loading them crossways, but not a ton of backing on either end. So my solution was to literally baste all 3 backings together. There's the third one. So that I was literally loading now 1 backing, and I had, that 2 inches of space now is plenty to lay some batting on there and center my runner and get it quilted. And you won't be able to see the quilting. You really can't. I actually did 2 of these with digital designs from my computer. Stella is right there behind me. Stella, my long arm. And one of them is freehand. So I'm just trying to save a little bit of time. So that helped me out. Carol Ann, super grateful. Elaine, I learned something every video. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Denise, very helpful as a new long armor. I've bought a used machine, but reluctant to start. Denise, you sound just like me. That is how I began. I had quilted 2 tiny projects on my friend's long arm when I went and bought my first used one. And like I said earlier, YouTube was a babe in arms at that point. There just was not much information out there. And because I purchased it used and just from an individual, not a dealer, I had 0 support. I had about half an hour, if I'm lucky, with that lady who sold it to me before I carted it home. My husband, bless his heart, assembled it. And I just started quilting, and that's how I got to know my machine. So if I had any words of encouragement to offer to a new long armor, it's dive in and don't be scared of it, and don't be scared of the decisions you don't know how to make. Honestly, just make them, do it, and you'll know for next time. Does that make sense? I remember stumbling over things like, how often can I break threads, and can I stop and start in the middle of a quilting project, or do I have to be off the edge, or whatever. Truthfully, it doesn't matter. Just do it. Decide if you like it or not. Decide if it works for you or not, or if it's too difficult, or if it looks ugly. And if you need to, change it next time. But just dive in and get to know your machine. And learning a new sewing machine, honestly, to me feels the same way. It is a bit like getting acquainted with a stranger. Expect that there will be a getting to know season. Expect that you're going to have to fuss around a little bit to figure out the features and figure out the tension. But please, please don't be scared of it. Come back to my channel whenever you need encouragement, because I'll offer it to you. That's exactly how I did it. I just dove in. I bit off projects that were way more complicated than I honestly knew how to do. But that was how I learned. And so I encourage you, just dive in. Mary, CM, good, good, good. I'm so glad. So glad. I'm just scrolling down to see if there's any actual questions, but thank you for all the sweet comments. I will come back and read those, because yesterday smarted a little bit, I'll be honest. Diane, the computer glitches don't matter at all, just part of going live. It feels like we're standing in the studio, which is so good. So good. Helpful, helpful. I love it. I love it. I love it. Dana is making an important comment. Please continue. It's taken for granted that we know all the steps, and we don't. I find I fall into that sometimes too, Dana. Things are so automatic to me sometimes that I don't even say them because I think everybody knows that, but it's not true. So I do try to keep that top of mind. For someone viewing this who's never seen it before, am I making sense? Am I covering all the bases? So I appreciate that comment. That's important. Carol Ann, wait, what? No, it's about them. You know, and I think you're right. I just need to have some perspective on it. Yeah, so good. Great, great, great. I appreciate you all so much. So much, so much. Okay, that's today's topic. I think we'll leave it at that. As always, if you have something you would like me to talk about, feel free to email me, susan@stitchedbysusan.com. Lots of you have, and I'll either create a daily topic for it, or since I've got most of them mapped out, I'll try and wedge it in with something else that's of similar interest and try and answer as many of your questions as I can. Definitely my style, again, if you're newer, my style is edge-to-edge quilting, so the same type of quilting all over couch and family use quilts. I do intricate custom quilting sometimes, but it's a little bitty percentage of the time because what I love is just creating quilts that people love and adore. Also, I love making them beautiful and showing that you don't have to do hyper intricate custom quilting to make them beautiful quilts. So that's kind of what I'm all about. So that's what you'll see lots of. Even in my social media feed this month, you'll be seeing pictures of edge-to-edge quilting. That tends to be what I post. Be watching. Within the next day or two, I'm going to start sending out invitations to a free workshop, not this Saturday, but next, 27th of April. Some of you may have caught it before, but it's 5 myths that tie freehand quilters in knots and how to break free of them. These are myths that certainly I experienced and lots of my students and people that I talk to have as well. So I'm going to bring a whole lot of photographs and examples, and I'm going to talk really fast and bust up some of those myths that tell you, oh yeah, Susan does beautiful quilting, but I could never do that. Because that's not true. Quilters are not born, quilters are made, and I can show you how that's done. So be on the lookout for an invitation to that workshop. It'll be coming up shortly. Sign up for my newsletter if you want to be sure not to miss it. Easiest way to do that is just go to my website, stitchedbysusan.com, and you'll get a little pop-up asking for your name and email address. Also on my website is lots of information about the big masterclass. There's a landing page for it that actually has an entire syllabus with what's in all the modules. So if you want any information beforehand, feel free to read that. There's also a link on my website to our upcoming cruise, which I'll be teaching on, as well as my friend Beth Ann Nemish and Sam Alberts, my friends. So a great time is going to be had there. That's in January of 2025. So there's still time to join that if you'd like to too. So information about that on the website as well. It has its own website. There's a link that'll take you right to it. Lots of pictures and details there. Excuse me, just got a tickle in my throat. So I guess that's going to be it for today. I will catch up with you all tomorrow. Have a great day.